Greetings, geeks and nerds. I'm Lady Universe and I'm White and Nerdy, and welcome back to another Lady Universe review, basically comic book review. And this time I'm going to be talking about one of the most influential and also one of the most famous pieces of all mangadom, Death Note. As it is probably one of the things that people say whenever somebody says name a famous anime or manga, people probably say like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Fist of the North Star, Berserk, Yu-Gi-Oh, Yu Hakusho, but you can't deny that Death Note definitely has an impact on history the same as Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece, the biggest gods that sit among us for the realm of most manga and anime. And here I'm holding the Death Note Black volume, so I'm mostly going to be skipping around this volume an awful lot, while trying to tackle everything that I can in between. And yes, also, by the way, these are very cheap to get in case anybody is watching this video and go, I've never seen Death Note before. Then check this out. Also, in case people are wondering, yes, I have seen the live adaptations of Death Note. The good ones. Not the 2017 one, the actual good one from like 2004 and 2006, I think. Very well done and very great pieces of pop culture media. I own the second Death Note myself, but if I'm ever going to review the films, I want to review all three at the same time. Death Note 2, and then something about L during his last moments of dying. So, with that all said and done, let's go pick up a Death Note and meet a Shinagami with my review of Death Note, the Black Edition, or basically whatever that I call this video. But let's dive in to Death Note. We begin our manga opening up properly in hell with a couple of Shinigamis playing a game with each other. Two death heads, I win again. It's been going on like this for 5 days now. So what, your game? That seems a bit excessive. It's been going on for, 5 days. As Ryuk, the demon here, seen, has been noticed something. I dropped my death note. Oh, well, what he actually means is that he didn't drop a death note, he dropped a note that he wanted to give to somebody. So you got any idea where you dropped it? Yeah, the human world. As it is banned for a Shinigami to lose their death note in the human world because it can cause chaos. As Ryu flies off, as we begin in our main story. By the way, before we continue further, I just want to mention the cover. It's okay. I'm not actually a big fan of this cover, and yeah, admittedly, the other Death Note covers are more awesome than this, but this one is just meh. It has a picture of Light Yagami in the center, the Death Note title with the number one and everything. It's just meh of a cover. Could be truthfully better for a collection. As anyways, we run into Light Yagami, a high school teenager, only at 17 years old, who happens to run into a death note which he actually reads about it, taking it home because he's concerned about it. However, that he does, well, do his homework and whatever, but can't help but read about the death note and wondering if it's actually all in his head or actually basically it's in. Every time that you write a name down and choose when they die within 6 minutes and 40 seconds exactly. But while at home, Light cannot seem to get the death note off his mind. The more that he tries to distract himself from it, the more that he's involved in it, like it's calling to him, beckoning to his every wish, as he ends up being shown that of Ryuk, his Shinigami that's been given to him since he ever touched the death note. Because when you touch a death note, you can see the Shinigami that owns it, as Ryuk and Light basically talk to each other about what's going on. As Light points out, he actually was waiting for Ryuk. He actually wants him, and he actually wants to change the world by using a death note. As he has a list of names of people that he basically wants to kill. As Ryuk even points out, yeah, most people would be scared by a death note. Why aren't you? As Light pointed out, I'm ready for anything, Ryuk. I've used the notebook knowing it belonged to a Shinigami, and now the Shinigami's here. What happens now? You take my soul or something? Some fantasy you humans came up with. I'm not gonna do anything to you. Ryuk actually didn't do anything to him. In fact, Ryuk actually basically just turned on any music that he wanted to, and basically he tried to twerk. So just imagine somebody trying to twerk to like something like Slipknot or Nine Inch Nails or something. It was a very weird experience for like Yagami. On the plus side, he's got millions of hits on YouTube, so there's that. So it's not actually explained in the manga, but I think it's explained later that basically Ryuk can't do anything to his human predecessor. Well, not until later, that is, anyways, when he screws Light over, but that's neither here nor there. As he points out, since he's the one that touched the Death Note, he's the only one that can see him. The Death, the Death Note is the bond between Light and human. Ryuk, Light the human, and Ryuk the Shinagami. The bond? Well, I mean, obviously, yeah. As Ryu points out that there is no price for him using the Death Note. Of course, Ryu would say not exactly, but if you're a Death Note fan, you know where this angle goes and where it goes fast. As Ryu points out, don't think any humans who use the Death Note can go to heaven or hell. Which is actually true, they live in purgatory. So, knowing this, Light basically snaps and breaks his mind, wondering what will happen to him as Ryu tells him, "You'll find out about that after you die." Basically leaving you in suspense of what would happen to Light Yagami. Light agrees to using the Death Note, and Ryu basically admits why he lost the Death Note. Because I was bored, that's why. And actual fat Shinagamis these days don't have a lot to do. All they do is nap or gamble, or if they see you scribbling human names in their death note, they say, "What are you working so hard for?" and laugh at you. So knowing this and knowing his fate, Light tried to work on his homework. But he actually can't. The death note is just calling to him. So he decides, yeah, why not? I'm gonna watch the news and I'm gonna kill somebody. So he turns it on Channel 6 News. The man who indiscriminately killed and wounded 6 people yesterday in Shinjuku is still barricaded inside the nursery school, 8 officers, including little children. The Metropolitan Police have determined that the identity of the man's name is Koru Otohara. He is 42 years old and unemployed. 2 days ago, Otohara, and basically that gives Light the inspiration to use the Death Note, which Light actually decides to do, writing his name down and timing it, and then Harada actually begins to basically corrupt, and he ends up dead, in shock of Light. So Light keeps playing around with the Death Note mysteriously enough, and he killed 2 people as he doesn't know what else that he should do. At first, he convinced that maybe he should give it up, throw it away, not have it anymore. But then he realizes that the world needs to be cleaned up as he's going to become a vigilante in the worst of ways. But he wondered if he had the guts, actually being terrified and actually going back and forth in his head, is this really something that I have the ability to do? Can I really change the world? Is it worth changing? And then he decides that yes, he's actually going to use the Death Note and try to change the world. As the police investigate, they even call upon someone known as Light, known as L. Nobody's ever seen him, and that they try to solve this murder. As they try to figure out who is actually doing this and who could actually be that smart in doing it, trying to figure out every impossible and conceivable angle to basically try to figure out who the hell is behind this and what are they doing and why are they killing these specific people. L is basically concerned about this too. That as basically he feels like that he and the police force are getting closer, but he doesn't want to give in on who he is or his identity or anything. Basically, that they're just gonna have to work together to try to figure out who this killer is, who's nicknamed Kira. Over back to White House, he's hanging out with his little sister while Ryuk is in the corner. As we find out that yes, Light's father is actually a police detective working on the Kira case. As the two learn about L, they are convinced about what is happening. He's saying that basically he should take a break from using the Death Note, as Ryu points out that he's on neither person's side, that he just wants to see the world burn. So I'm not going to tell you that what you're doing is right or wrong. I won't say a word about that, but I will speak up once in a while as your roommate. What's up, Ryu? Why are you telling me that all this now? This isn't like you. What I mean it was, what I'm about to tell you hasn't been spoken as Kira's ally. It's because it's been bugging me personally. Just get to the point, will you? I'm always hovering behind you, so I noticed right away, and it's getting on my nerves these last couple of days. As Ryu points out, that it's not the flying that's been bothering him, it's the person that's been following Light around. Ryu tells him that because he's invisible and nobody can see him except for Light, telling Light that he's been concerned and that he's been following him for at least a couple days now, and he had no idea why that is. Ed Light is not concerned with that at the moment, that he's basically is thinking, yeah, I can still get away with this and everything. But Ryu tried to convince him to use the Shinagami's eyes, not knowing that they basically cut his life force in half. So Light decides not to take the deal with the Shinigami in order to see their lifespan of a person's lifespan and also their names. While Light is convinced, he, however, is not interested in taking that deal, moving on forward into the story. Anyways, more deaths keep happening, as Light is, of course, as L, not Light, is, of course, basically worried about this. It could just be a criminal acting on his own, but Kira can control the time of death. He can also manipulate the victim's actions right before they die, as L trying to wonder what they should do about this, pointing out that maybe somebody could, as he tried to put a test on Kira, basically having him pick out a name and seeing if that person will actually absolutely die or not, which of course is a test of challenge for like Yagami, who happens to be Kira, the one that's killing all the innocent people. As the murders keep getting worse and worse, L tried to figure out what he can do. Kira, I think that right now we're even if we cut the distance between us. But I managed but the clue I managed to get to obtain was by sacrificing the lives of 12 FBI agents, 12 precious lives. So I'll do this. I'll show myself to others as L for the first time, basically realizing that the threat is getting worse and that the only way that he can basically figure out this crime himself is by putting himself on the front line. And we get to see L in all of his glory. All of his sweet, sweet glory. I mean, it's perfect. He's a slacker, but the smartest boy in the world. I absolutely love how this works. And he looks so bored at everything as he finally introduces himself to the police chief. Like, L basically told the police that he's gonna be tracking down Kira. That Kira basically murdered somebody by their name and he can pick the time and date. So they should be worried about what's going on and what the police and him should actually do. As he should as he survives that maybe he's using cell phone or basically television technology in order to do this. Kira is childish. He hates losing. You get it. I'm also childish. I hate losing. That's how I know. Basically pointing out that Kira hates losing to the side of good, so that if the police can basically stop him from succeeding all the time, they might actually prevent him from actually murdering somebody, which is pretty smart. L pointing out of all the victims that he killed so far, including the 12 FBI agents, is basically telling them that Kira can kill people even if they're not criminals, which makes him even much more of a dangerous threat. What's more is that the fact that he knows and can pick the time of date that people die basically makes everything all the more worse. And that basically that yes, Kira can be just that much of a bigger threat. Except there's one big alternative that actually is keeping L from basically solving the case right offhand. He doesn't have a clue. If I messed up, even one time, if I left even one clue to my identity, I'm finished. Just one clue. As we see a picture of both L and Light almost looking exactly the same, which is actually a nice touch because pretty much by this point, they almost are acting very similar and alike. So L has a solution. He's gonna give the FBI and the police fake identities, fake IDs that they can use. He thinks that this might actually come to work and that Kira cannot kill any single one of them. So they basically have to wear these belts at all times so they can carry around transmission so that basically they can keep in contact with L, or Ryuzaki as if it were, and that they can also keep in touch by cell phone via the signal that transmitted to their belt, which is honestly pretty fucking smart. The police agree to basically be doing this, but at the same time, L while at the same time Light, or Kira, is hunting down one of the widows of one of the agents that he accidentally basically murdered. More murders keep popping up and up, as Light's father and also L are very concerned about what's going on with this, as L puts it together that it could be the cameras. Well, even if Kira was on his train, I'm pretty sure he wouldn't let himself be captured by a security camera with the envelope. A public place, he would have checked the cameras' locations in advance. If he used the blind spots, if any, if not, he had to be hiding somewhere. But if he is on camera with it, we could call him in as a material witness. Unfortunately for them, it was actually a video of Shinagami dancing along to the song and Rick rolling everybody, Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Ashley, as he proceeds to actually perform a Rick roll long before the internet and especially YouTube would create the iconic Rick roll. But it's actually a pretty smart idea since they have seen Light in the subway that it would make sense to bring him in as a material witness. Then this also leads into one of the plot points of Death Note 2, having both L and Light work side by side, with Light basically keeping in secret that he is Kira, while also at the same time working with another woman that is also basically Kira or using the Kira name. Yes, I will review Death Note Black probably like next year or something. And also, if you're wondering if I would ever use the music of Never Gonna Give You Up, yeah, do you know how copyrighted that music is and everything? I don't even have the technology of doing that, but it's nice to basically just give you guys the imagination of what that would look like. It'd be hysterical. However, Ryu can contemplate about this, about how this thing entirely should be, and that Light is absolutely fascinated with the Death Note. But the more that he goes down, the further down in the ruin that he'll be. He'll fall down the rabbit hole and be deeper and deeper in so much trouble that he had nothing to do with it. But he's actually smart in trying to figure out how he can sneak around the ways of the FBI working around him. And we also see that L is doing the exact same thing, talking to his butler about hope and the FBI and hoping that everything will go well for him. As he tells Light's father that he wants to put Light under observation. Light's father, of course, is against this idea, as everybody even points out that Light is pretty innocent and everything, and that including sneaking in on his own privacy is a bad thing. But as L points out, that this will keep happening unless something is done about it. Even if they just keep short observation on him, it still would be a good thing and maybe prevent Kira from killing anyone further. And eventually, they agree, putting up cameras inside of the house, which Light absolutely knows about, as Ryu tries to talk to him. Hey, let's play Mario Golf. You listening? As Light proceeds to look around his room trying to find the cameras. As of course he's sitting with Light's father right side by side, basically pointing out that yeah, they're just gonna monitor him on the Kira case and follow it closely, and basically asking his father if he shared any information on the Kira case with his own son, which honestly would be a pretty smart idea. But Ryuk is also very worried about this since that Light is in very much trouble, and that, yeah, Ryu can also see these things as well too, noticing that there's a camera on the door handle, which they have to basically just ignore for the time being. The manga ends with Light and Ryu talking to one another about the cameras and about what will happen, as Light will play along with it for right now, for him for the time being, but he does not intend on giving up his role as Kira, basically just slacking off for the time being, as Ryu points out that he's still on nobody's side. But it might be real hard to go without apples, and even harder to be your roommate without talking to you. Okay, a camera hunt. That sounds like a lot of fun. The two actually decide to play Mario, the N64 version of Mario Kart, and then the Wii Sports version of Wii Golf. As actually it was more fun than going on a camera hunt, and the FBI basically went in and joined on all the fun. And they just had all relaxing time and forgot all about the Kira case. Just kidding. Death Note is still pretty damn awesome. It's a murder mystery, and there is a lot to get through, which is why I cut corners a lot. It's a great mystery, drama, action, and suspense story, with a little bit of supernatural put in, which honestly is pretty much fun for the most part of Death Note, which honestly, all in all, is actually pretty damn decent and pretty damn good. The story is unique, but very simple at the same time, and that also, yes, that this story can be seen by anyone and anyone to be basically enjoyed. So, Death Note, the Black Edition, even if you just pick up the single volumes, it's still worth your time reading, and so are the live action movies that are inspired by this manga. So check it out if you haven't already. So thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Raging Voice. I've been you to keep eking on. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me at Twitter. Link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, and until next time, take care. Which come back next time, and we'll be going back to the DC animated universe to talk about the true ending of Superman the animated series. So come back next time for the death of Superman.